Yes, sounds like a good idea. I'm pretty warped to begin with. I'll be the head guy on that. Yes, and then you'd have to, as many of us have, pass the testosterone exam. And when you figure that out, don't email. Okay, now.
Well, you know, I think it is important. I don't know. I mean, we could get into that, but but the whole planetary consciousness is it's thinking in a bigger place. It's thinking with a bigger operating room, okay? When we get really individual conscious, that's when we say, oh, they're Christians, we hate them. Oh, they're Muslims, we hate them. Oh, they're Jewish, we hate them. That is being very, very much individual consciousness. And it really doesn't matter what your religion. If it's teaching you that, then once you notice that, that means you've outgrown that particular belief system. And then you expand, and then there's the next thing. I did read a lot of organized religions for many, many years. I studied them. I've read the Bible many times. I've done a lot of research with it. And I outgrew that. I grew to a place where I see that it's more expansive. And the way I see that is it's like bubbles, you know, in outer space, you know, and the more bubbles of belief systems you can have within you, the more expansive you are. And I believe that that's really the definition of oneness, is if you can include every other soul as being valid and having their own personal truths, because everybody's path is completely different, no matter what it may look like, that if we say that's right for you, it doesn't have to be right for us, then eventually we become one, because everyone is within us. And it's so important to look in your life at what you're resisting. What's the thing that you automatically dislike when you see it? What's the thing that you can't tolerate? What's the thing that you put up that offense, which is really the defense, you know, putting that up to block people out. And look at that and say, what can I do to see that as being a part of me? And what can I do to see me loving that part of me and opening that up? And you just become bigger and bigger until we really do become one with the all eventually.
The very nature of us, the innermost part of us, is really a gardener, is really a person.
Chauncey Gardner.
Is really a person who would love to tend the garden. I mean, anybody who's remarkably stressed out will indeed find a great deal of calm in playing in the earth, planting plants, talking to them, etc., etc. We are the stewards of the planet, but because of the mistranslation of the Bible, dominion actually means to enter into a balanced relationship with. That's what it means. Yes, the caretaker. Dominion does not mean that the earth is your minion. It just doesn't work like that.
Or that dough is your minion.
The earth is a living being with as many feelings, more feelings than you have, as many sensory in and outputs as any of us have. The earth is our living parent, our living mother, and we are charged with being loving towards her, and that is an amazingly large part of planetary consciousness. And just for the moment, I don't think we're ready for the...
While they're getting that, I just wanted to say a comment on what you were talking about before we change subjects. That's actually very beautiful, and I don't know if anybody out there saw the movie Being There with Peter Sellers and Shirley MacLaine, where the character was named Chauncey Gardner, and he was actually made like President of the United States based on his analogies with gardens and watering and stuff like that. So I thought that was very intuitive, since I believe you have not seen that movie, but I highly recommend the movie. It's very, very good.
That concept was followed through in Idiocracy, if anyone has happened to have seen that movie, which states that we are breeding the human race for the dumber person. And that is because people that are better educated are less willing to partner with people that are less educated than themselves, so they just don't reproduce. But those that are not as well educated are very happy with other people who are not so well. And so this Idiocracy is set a couple hundred years in the future, where this has gone on, and the average IQ on the planet is roughly 60. And the President of the United States is also the winner of the wrestling world SmackDown title, whatever that might be. And his entire administration is taken up with
Well, it sounds like something that's
battling people that challenge him physically, like it was prior to, when we were all Neanderthals. The tallest one, I suppose that's where the name came from, was the leader. The
Well,
strongest
sounds like
one
a
was
good
the
movie.
leader.
It
Yeah, I
like
recommend it actually.
Yeah,
Get a load of what's going on around here.
And I know that they're getting a close-up of your malachite.
Yeah,
Isn't
this
that
is
lovely?
a malachite ball and does definitely represent the human race. And if it's possible for you to just see that, the highlights I understand, but there's an angelic standing there. And there is also, and if I turn it to a different angle, we might recognize, there he is. Whoops, okay, whoa, there we go. That's the green man that the pagans talk about, the man with, we pagans, we who recognize angels talk about, the man whose face is made of leaves is clearly depicted in there. And this particular malachite ball, malachite is said to be created only on what would be called an M-class planet. There we go. That's
that looks like
seahorse looking down at something.
That actually looks like the, well,
Batman?
we won't go into that, but that's very lovely.
Yeah, it's an excellent piece.
There is so much to this that, you know, we have the crystal healing certification coming up in April, and it's really, really a powerful, powerful time. The last time we did it, it was just such a sacred weekend, and it's all weekend. And you learn actually how to use them in your healing practice or as your main thing, and you learn about all the different minerals and gridding. Go into some details with gridding, and you get to experience a lot and have a lot of healings done through the weekend.
And healing the self, healing yourself is a very big part of this particular thing.
Well, I tell you, you know, if you, if you're just out there getting trainings to learn different things, but you don't use them on yourself, which is, you know, the cobbler's son has no shoes or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That we tend to do that. And there is so much, you know, with knowledge that is sitting here readily, you know, at the touch of a key on your computer. But really it gets down into applying it to your life and living it every day. And that's one of the things our show is about, amongst other things, is bringing up these points week after week of how you can use this in your life to change your life and to make you to decide to be happier using these.
Many people will have recognized that they heard a lot of this stuff on the show many, many times, and then you'll hear it somewhere else. And remember that you heard it here. We've been broadcasting this for the longest time. We had you had talked about Ledbetter having written in the 1880s, I think it was.
Yeah, the 1800s.
1800s, all of these gnomes of consciousness.
Yeah, I do think it's important to remember, you know, the Jane Roberts and the Seth work, Alan Watts, you know, Florence Scovel Shen, Ledbetter, Catherine Ponder, a lot of people earlier in the 1900s that just profound, and you know, all the stuff that's out there now is really building on the shoulders of that. So,
what's interesting,
just imagine the next.
Yeah, what's interesting is the next piece of knowledge that hasn't been revealed before, and on this show we cut edge. We absolutely do. We have announced so many things that aren't visible, that haven't been written, that the average person who doesn't have a place to put this in the thinking, it'll skip off the first time, and then the second time, maybe third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, the number of times that it's repeated, and then that it goes. And not only does it go, it produces fruit. It becomes the daily reality of things. We've said, oh God, there's so many, one doesn't particularly pop out. But the idea, oh, here's a good one. You've had so many people go, what % of your life do you create? And then you say 100%, and then you expect a pat on the head. Well, on this show, we're saying, all right, fine, you create 100% of your life. Now, what % of your life